Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again with just another 20k HP Mathil build. Yep, if I had $1 for every time I put one of these together, I'd have probably about half a dollar because putting this together has driven me insane. What we got here is a life stacking I guess Ignite build, but in the current format that you're going to see it, it's Arc Ignite with Val Arc. So just a combo of Arc for clear and then Val Arc for even bigger clear. And then when we really want to get serious, it's supposed to be Reap Ignite. So I don't currently have that set up on the character, but just swapping around a gem means that Reap is what's going to be the single target. And then that'll do some pretty decent boss DPS, I hope. It stacks a lot of life because it uses the new unique affliction staff that gives you 20% of your life as chaos damage to your spells. And what that does in turn is something like an extra 4,000 flat added chaos to my arc. And then you have one of the new unique jewels that does all damage can ignite, and thus all of my damage is then added towards my ignite, including the chaos that I get a lot of from the staff. The original design was to also use Sacrifice Gem, but that ended up being just a bit too clumsy and not enjoyable for the playstyle, and also not very worth it anymore after using the staff. It's also using the Warlock Ascendancy for extra fizz damage, which should help a bit while reaping, not while arcing, because it's extra fizz damage based off of life cost of the skill. And while arc is, costing a bit of life, it's really not that much. While the reap would end up adding something like 700 fizz damage in the end, I think. So yeah, it's been a tough build to put together because it is just an absolute headache as to fixing certain things and the playstyle. The playstyle becomes pretty damn weird and different to almost everything else in the game because of Dissolution of Flesh Jewel, which, if you can tell, reserves your life whenever you get hit and will unreserve that life if you have not been hit for about 2 seconds. And that includes everything, so damage over times, ground degens, all kinds of shit like that. You need to make sure that you are not getting hit or damaged by those, otherwise it will keep stacking up your reservation and then you will die. And there are a few situations where that is really annoying against some kinds of bosses and stuff that have like degen auras, but for the most part you just try and fix bleed, try and fix poison, try and fix ignite, and then just don't get hit too often. And it does work out when you have 20k life. Eventually you don't get hit, and then you recharge all of your ES back up through Eternal Youth, because it turns your ES recharge into life recharge. And when you've got 20k life, your life recharge is something like 7 to 10k a second. Can't quite remember, but it is very fast, and thus you don't actually really need to care about like life regen or leech or anything like that. Instead, you just not get hit sometimes, and then your life comes back to you in the form of ES recharge. It's a pretty complex sort of situation to put together, but other people have figured it out for Relic of the Pact builds, and those builds can shoot all the way up to something like 40k life, and they've got a lot more synergy with the life stacking than something like this would because of the Wrathpith shield, which gives you a lot of extra crit and spell damage per life reserved, and thus you basically just stack a fuck ton of life, get some crit multi, and then your crit and spell damage is taken care of by that shield, and it becomes a very powerful build. You can look up some of those on I don't know, YouTube, PoE Ninja, something like that. This is a bit of a different thing. I'm still stacking life, and it's not too hard to get to this type of a life value, but part of the difficulty is then also balancing damage, because I don't get damage at the same time as life on this build. I still have to actually spec damage, and that's part of what nearly broke me and my entire decision of making this character. Just real quick as well, as you can see in the background here, you can just slot in Frostblink if you really feel like it, and it can be a Frostblink Ignite build or a Lightning Warp build if you just put in Lightning Warp, all kinds of shit like that. Still kind of just playing around with the build and figuring it out, but it is Arc at the moment and supposed to be Reap for single target. But yes, it was midway through yesterday when I was around level 75 on this character, where I really wasn't sure if it was worth playing anymore, and I was having an existential crisis over the character and just my build making in general. Ended up being that I needed to drop sacrifice, I needed to drop some life, I needed to spec some more damage, I needed to get a few things fixed up in the build, and now I'm at a point where I'm really happy with it, and Ignite Arc has been just so much fun to play throughout the mapping process, especially with Vile Arc. And for now, that's all I got, so let me go ahead and show you how I built the character thus far. Alright, so here we are with level 91, more divines than DPS. Had a bunch of divines from sailing a headhunter for 150 and wasn't sure this was going to have any damage. And there was a lot of this character's life progression that I thought I wouldn't still. So it took a long time to get to where we're at, but now that we're here, I think it's actually pretty respectable for an Ignite build. Got something like 3 million Ignite DPS at the moment on Arc, I think. And then Reap might have like 5 or 6, and that might end up being pretty comfortable. We'll see how it goes. I've yet to really tackle any big end game. So the core concept of the build is pretty fucking simple. Like, get lots of life, and then do damage because of something like this. This is the new staff. Spells deal added cast damage equal to 20% of your life. It also has life tap in there, which just gives you a bit more damage, but also increases the cost of the skill by a lot. So with Reap, for example, it will make the Reap go up to like 1,000 life in the end, and thus we're also trying our best to utilize this thing, which will be just a bit of extra on top of the staff as well. At the moment, though, like I said, doesn't really do too much. As you can see, a lot of my damage is chaos. Some of it's lightning from the base of the lightning still, but a lot of it is chaos. And then I was also trying to make sure, I forgot to grab one of these, trying to make sure this was a thing in the build too, because spotted spells sacrifice 20% of your current life when cast to gain added chaos damage equal to 45% of the sacrifice life. So it's basically half as good as this thing, but at the same time it also kills your life, and as you can see, it also kills your life pretty routinely, and it'll only be based off of whatever you're sacrificing at the end of the day. So if I'm down to 10k life and then sacrificing off of that, it's going to be fucked and it's going to be worse. But it just means that the playstyle is really bad if you start getting hit and then chunk yourself for an extra 4k. Like, sure, in isolation, just standing around like this, I can do it all day. But once you start getting hit, then it gets even worse, and then it just cascades and feels fucking terrible. So I had this up until like level 82 and took it out, and it just feels way better. Not sure where I would be using that thing otherwise. So like I said, core concept of the build, pretty simple. Get life, do this, have ignite damage based off of... Currently, it can be any spell, and you can fuck around with lots of different spells. My best were Arc, Firestorm, Reap. Yeah, pretty much that. But you can do plenty of fucking around with this because it's just a bunch of flat added damage. We have Combustion, Burning Damage, Cruelty, Deadly Ailments, and Swift Affliction at the moment. How we get to this life total is a bit more complicated. So... like I said, the reason we are making this is because these jewels now exist. All damage can ignite. So I picked one of these up for a divine, and then I can build any ignite character I want on any class or ascendancy. It doesn't have to be an elementalist anymore, but you have to make sure it's worthwhile somehow, because otherwise elementalist has a lot going for it regardless. So with that, you can then path all the way around the tree and get a whole bunch of life, basically life everywhere. But with the new jewel, the Adorned, I put one of these together myself. You just grab the Vile pieces that you get from old Ultimatum shit, put them together, and it can go from anywhere from 50 to 150% effect. 150 is like a mirror or some shit. One of these basically means that you start putting corrupted magic jewels all over your tree and just getting a lot of extra benefit from them. So the way I'm going about it is pretty much life and burning damage, or life and fire damage over time multiplier. Now, if you can just buy a fractured version, it's pretty easy to get another 7% life, but you then have to Vile it and make sure it lives. So I've probably had to make like 20 of these things, bricked like 10 of them, but then also the implicit will get doubled too. So as you can see with this one currently, it goes from 7% life, 20 burn damage, to 15% life, 45 burn damage, and then also reduced ignite duration. This one over here, similar, but instead it's got reduced cursive effect. Let's see if I've got more. This one over here is fire damage over time multiplier, 18. from 8 to 18 with that extra multiplier. So the fire damage over time multiplier fracture is like a divine or some shit almost, or 100C, whereas the burning damage one was like 10C, and they are similar to me on DPS at the moment because I need both burn damage and fire damage over time multi. So this one's another burn damage one. Got another one down here which is a burn damage. It's a bit worse, probably try and make another one. And this one's just a damage over time one, probably need to make another one there as well. And then down here we have a dissolution of flesh, and that is what gives us a fuck ton more life, but also turns our playstyle into this reserve bullshit, which you have to not take damage from every now and again to then recharge your life back up. And the reason we recharge our life is Eternal Youth. It takes away basically our leech and regen, and instead turns ES recharge into life recharge, and that is based off of our current life. So as you can see, it's 11.6k. It's also scaled by faster recharge rate. So if you have, I'm not sure I actually have any at the moment. Just some here, basically, on my implicit on my ring. But you can get it on suffixes on your gear. If you get some here on boots as well, you can kind of tell that it does a lot. If you get it all across the board, you'll end up recharging like 20k a second. So as soon as you're out of that 2-second lockout, you just go boom, straight back up to the top, and it's pretty crazy. But the suffixes on all my gear is kind of crap, and I've just left it that way because I don't need it to be any better at the moment. So the cluster jewels otherwise just have triple damage, nothing too special, a little bit of damage because I do need some since my entire tree is built around getting life. So we then also utilize some other crazy shit. We have Crimson Power, which removes all energy shield, removes some life per level, but you gain max life instead of ES from equipped armor items. So the entire character is built around energy shield items. As you can see, something like 700 ES Regalia, 200 ES there, 200 ES there, 300 there. It's also got some life on it as well because the hybrids are worth it on these, but that means that my character's gaining like an extra, I don't know, 1400 life or some shit just from gear. And then they're all empty red sockets thanks to this guy here, 42 life, or it's by default 40 life for each empty red socket. And then it's affected by catalysts, so it will go up to like 48 life, I think, per red socket once I finish catalyzing. And then you just empty all these red sockets and make sure they're red. So this one I did through a tempering orb randomly, these through the crafting bench. And then that's a bunch of extra life as well. My hat currently does have some stuff, so Frostblink, Flammability, and then Malevolence with Eternal Blessing, which ends up being a free aura in this case. So just free, can't do any other auras though, and that's all there is to it. And that's pretty much it. I think that's the entire complexity of the build out of the way. Bunch of life and resists and stuff. I'm currently well over on my resists for several things, so like I said, suffixes could be a lot better if I feel like doing them. I've got cast speed while focused here. That just happened accidentally, and I left it because, I don't know, it might feel good for like reap on single target or something, but it's really quite meaningless otherwise. Don't feel like you need to get that. Likewise with duration of ailments here, don't need that at the moment, but it's just something that happened when I did the prefix lock and then veil. So all of my suffixes could be a lot better. I could get capped chaos resist, for example. I could get better recharge rate, but yeah, we've just got some Vermilion rings that I used Essence of Delirium on to try and get something, basically just life, and yeah, pretty basic gearing other than the weird shit to begin with that I mentioned. So there is some weird stuff to go to get the character rolling, but then otherwise it's kind of a basic setup. It's just, you know, a few specific things. So it shouldn't take too much, like maybe 10 divines to put this together in a rough fashion, but it is some specific shit that will take you a long way. If we just take out our Adorned, for example, like you can see that we're down to 18k life, so this thing's worth 3000 life for me at the moment, as well as, you know, doubling the burn and ignite multi of all of these jewels, and we can still get more as well. Like if I level up and maybe even respec a bit, I'll probably grab this jewel, and I might grab this jewel as well. So at the end of the day, we'll probably have, I don't know, like 10 blue jewels, and doubling all of them is going to be pretty big. And then, yeah, just flasks that do stuff and can be sustained pretty easily because I am a Scion, and I did pick Elementalist and Pathfinder. Pathfinder is what I took first, just for more comfortable flaskage and running around, and Elementalist is what I took second, and it's just for extra exposure and running cannot take reflected maps. But that's currently the build. That's currently what's going on. I think that's all I needed to say. I leveled it by using the new burning arrow that scales off a life. It was an okay leveling process. Once you get the stuff on, it should feel a bit better, combined with this jewel, and then it goes from there. But damn near gave me an existential crisis putting this together. And I've finally got it to a point where I'm pretty pleased with it and happy enough to share it as a build. You can get up to like 30, 40k life if you do pure life stacking bullshit. I don't think that's worth it in my version of this thing. And yeah, it's just at the moment, Arc Ignite build that clears real nice, can be used with all kinds of other skills. I might end up lightning warping around a lot, and then it's just going to be very snappy gameplay. And we'll see where it goes from there. Maybe we'll take some Uber bosses down, and if that happens, I'll go ahead and show you the video for that stuff next time. But for now, thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.